Welcome to the Week 3 Picks podcast for the Nick and Rob Homer Hour, where we cover all things UFL. Today we're going to go over our 3 things from Week 2, recap what happened in the UFL during Week 2, and give you our picks for what we think is going to go down in Week 3 and what's been an exciting start to the UFL season, and it just keeps getting better and better. Welcome, and let's enjoy the show.
All right, Rob.
Here we are, Week 3.
Here we are, Week 3. Now, I got to tell you, I apologize in advance to our 4 viewers. Normally, we like to get these produced by Wednesday night, but I was going through a serious emotional case of watching a basketball game.
Fire Nico.
Yeah, with the big Luka returning to Dallas, and I gotta tell you, it's like losing a family member, but the family member comes back alive and drops 45 points on you. So
He had real tears in the pregame.
Yeah.
Real tears. He did not want to leave Dallas. Dallas did not want him to leave. I don't think there was a single person in the arena, except for maybe Anthony Davis and Nico, that were rooting for Dallas last night. And probably not even Anthony Davis. Probably not even Anthony Davis.
No, he's not the biggest fan of LeBron, but it was not, it had to happen. And glad it's over with. And, I'm moving on to the next part, but it was definitely rough. The good news is we've got the UFL that helps keep my mind off those kind of things. So
Masters Week.
And in fact, I am repping. I am wearing the Masters shirt. Yeah.
I am not. I'm wearing a golf course shirt, but it's not an Augusta one.
Yeah, really, we're just trying to figure out who will lose to Scotty Scheffler in the Masters, right?
I don't know. Justin Rose looked good today. 7 under. He's got a 3-shot cushion. And Freddie Couples 1 under at age 65.
He's always there. Always there. And then
he holed out for Eagle from 186 yards with a 6 hybrid today.
Yeah, we always make fun of him for being older, but he could beat us any day. He was pretty good. He is pretty good. So,
Indeed.
Big news going on in – I'm sorry, Rob?
I said, but the UFL.
But the UFL, yes. We've got big news going on in the UFL. There was a big trade happening. The Michigan Panthers traded away Marcus Sims, who a lot of people debate is the number 1 wide receiver in the UFL. Traded him to the Roughnecks and gave up and then received offensive tackle OT Cam Carter, who didn't even get that many starts in week 1. So the Roughnecks are going to have a really nice wide receiving core, but I can't believe they gave up Marcus Sims to get it. Rob, do you have any thoughts on the trade?
I have a question.
What you got?
Do the Michigan Panthers understand they don't have a functioning offense and they just gave away their best weapon?
See, you say the Michigan Panthers. I say the Roughnecks don't realize they have a functioning offense. I think they're much worse.
Oh, I read that. Oh, my goodness. I read that backwards. The Panthers made the perfect move. The Roughnecks made the dumb move. Okay.
No. Sims went to the Roughnecks.
Oh, okay. No, he did. Okay, I read that right. Yeah, what are the Panthers doing?
I don't know. I guess they're trying to bolster up their offensive line. A lot of UFL conspiracy hats are already being put on. But I think the Roughnecks,
if they have no one to throw it to, who cares about the protection?
Right. Now, they're working out their offense, and I think they're playing a little bit – I don't know. They were playing all right against the Stallions. We'll go into, how that offense is run later in the podcast. Well, what I don't get is the Roughnecks are going to get Marcus Sims is really good, but I don't think it's going to matter because you still have David Price running that offense, and he
They
hasn't done
did.
anything that big or special.
They did cover the spread. They did cover the spread.
Yeah, it wasn't because of their offense, though. It was not because of
I
that.
know. I know.
But I don't know. It was pretty crazy. And then also what's going on, too, is I don't know if you heard Greg Williams gone.
What happened with that? I saw that and I was very confused because he can coach. Is there another scandal or did he get – what's going on?
I've seen a lot of rumors, and one of the big rumors is he's going to try to pair up with Barlow in his new job. That's one of them. I didn't get a confirmation on that.
That's
But
not
outside
that
of that,
exciting of a job for Greg Williams.
the what?
That job's not that exciting for Greg Williams.
You would think, but maybe the UFL is he thinks it's better than the UFL, which is not a good sign for the league. I don't think.
More stable. But their expansion talks have started. So stable.
Yeah, and I've already got my teams on that. I think the Seattle Sea Dragons. I was posting on X earlier with the Seattle Sea Dragon fan, and they've got to get back into the league. I hope they find their way back. They have a big following over there. I don't know who else they would get.
Austin is your other team. Don't say Austin is your other team.
Austin's the other team. Let's get Austin. Let's make it all Texas.
I live here. I'm all for it. But logic states 4 teams within like 3 hours of each other. That doesn't make sense.
Well, my logic states that this is the state for football. I say bring it in. And one thing Texas cities do better than the rest of the nation is hate on each other like no other. So I think the rivalries are going to be a lot of fun as well.
Oh, if I have to drop my deep, deep love for the Brahmas because a team shows up in Austin, it'll be hard. I'll do it in a heartbeat. But I logic says, especially if you want to start getting, if in the future we're going to start getting the presence of in the communities to grow things. Logic says you don't put another team in Texas. You put a team in the Pacific Northwest. You put a team in the Northeast.
It would also help on their travel, though, since it's headquartered.
It'll save a lot of money on travel. Oh, I'm not arguing that. Especially you put all 4 Texas teams together in the same conference. I don't like how they say conference with only 4 teams. They should just call them divisions. I feel like conference needs to have at least double-digit teams. But whatever. You put all the Texas teams together and let the Texas teams rumble for it. Add an extra Texas championship trophy. Oh, the stories write themselves. I think you can get the fan bases up for all of those games.
Mm-hmm.
But overall growth nationally for TV ratings, I think that's harder.
Yeah, I'm happy to
be wrong.
I think it'll be fine, but I don't know if they're going to go to Austin. They also have some USFL teams that got dropped, like the Shockers over in New Orleans, which is also another good spot that could have a team. You disagree with that? See, my theory is
Birmingham. We have a team in Birmingham. We don't need a team in New Orleans.
Well,
spread.
My theory is New Orleans is looking for an excuse to party. So
facts. That's where Arlington's been letting us down.
Right. I would say Arlington, the Roughnecks.
Move Arlington to New Orleans. Done.
Hey, whoa. Easy now. That's my hometown, buddy.
That's why. No, they don't move Arlington. Not when the league's based there. That's never moving.
Yeah, call me when New Orleans has the DFW airport, okay? It's just nicely located and can transport the teams a lot easier. No, but, I mean, my theory is New Orleans looks for excuses to party. The people go out. They shell out. They'll cheer at the games. And I think this is the biggest problem I have with this league right now is yes, the ratings looked all right, but if you want this league to sound legitimate, look legitimate, you've got to get fans in there. And shout out to the Battlehawk fans. They're still kicking it. A little less than last year, but they're doing well.
They're doing it. But what's weird is, like, for those of you that were wise enough to watch our live stream of our game of the week in week 2, we talked about how bad it looked in Detroit. They were celebrating those attendance numbers and trumpeting them. But any smart media person could have just taken a screenshot and put it next to the numbers and said, no. So stop charging for the tickets. Don't charge for the tickets. Fill the seats. Make money on concessions. Sell a $2 hot dog, a $5 beer. Hell, we want more beer snakes? Sell a $3 beer. Offer an Uber discount.
I would love for that to happen. I just think the concessions are owned by the stadium, and then you have leasing rights and things like that. I don't know how that goes down. I don't know how much the UFL could actually control
my
it.
argument is just like how Atlanta does the cheap concessions and for all the events they host at the home of the Falcons. If you make concessions reasonably cheap, where you're not making 500%, but maybe you're making 80%, you're going to sell so much more.
For sure. And that's what the Masters do too, by the way. They sell cheap beer and they make a ton more money.
$5 for a beer, $3 for a sandwich.
It's apparently a Georgia thing, you know?
And they do that for fans that are dropping a couple grand per ticket plus travel. So, like, those fans would pay more. They're at Augusta, but they don't have to. They spend all their money in the go ahead, pop it in the shop.
Oh yes, of course. $80. You know, it actually is reasonably priced for.
They ship from that shop.
Oh, they do now.
Like, you buy a bunch of stuff, you buy a bunch of stuff in the Augusta Pro Shop. You don't want to carry it around all day. When you see the patrons, they're never holding a bunch of bags. You buy your stuff, and then, like, the next stop before you walk out is like the FedEx setup to ship wherever you need to go.
Yeah, and for the record, I did not go to Augusta to get this. I know that's the requirements, but I got it from a friend who did go, and I like to lie to people and say I went just to enjoy it, you know?
I mean, I wasn't going to sell you out. I was going to say you went.
Yeah, my honesty got the best of me. The other big news that's coming out, I don't know if you saw this as well. This is your Brahmas team. You had a busy weekend, I heard, but
yeah.
AJ Smith got fired from the Brahmas, the offensive coordinator for the Brahmas.
Yeah, I know you talked about how much preseason you loved him. God, their offense sucks. Wade Phillips is getting up there in years. He doesn't have forever to add a UFL title to his legacy. Did they announce? I missed this. I saw the firing. Did they announce who's replacing? Is Wade just going, I got it all? Or
I missed the name, and it's the special teams coordinator, though, if you can get that name. Yeah, and I'm not too familiar with them, but it is going to be the special teams coordinator. And I understand this is your first year of watching the UFL and really get an idea of who this guy is. But let me tell you something. Yes, it was a bad start. And I think a lot of it, you might disagree with me.
He didn't get fired. He resigned over disagreements with the system. He stepped down.
Yeah, there's some rumors going around that it was Anthony McFarland who they're not running him enough or running the ball enough, but that doesn't really make sense to me. If you know his AJ Smith style, he's actually really big on the run. He's using it as a deceptive attack to pass the ball. I think a lot of it has to do with Keenan Allen personally on how that offense is run, but there is no denying whatever is happening there is broken right now. The shocking part is how good of seasons he's had before. I mean, he was really good in the XFL when he was with the Roughnecks. And then last year with the Brahmas, he started the year hot, and then it started slowing down towards the end, but he still got that team to the championship game. The other thing is he's got a lot of flair.
And we're only 2 games in. The season's not lost for the Brahmas, but at the same time, knowing Wade Phillips, what he specializes in, more than likely he was just like, AJ Smith, do your thing. And AJ Smith was not successfully doing his thing. So now we've got Peyton Party taking over um, as the play caller, and running backs coach Jesse Thompson's going to take over special team responsibilities. And then they're adding in Cody Latimer, who was a tight end last year. He's going to join the staff specifically to focus on the receivers. So a big shakeup in San Antonio. Something tells me if somehow this doesn't end in San Antonio, at least making the playoffs, we're going to see Wade Phillips ride off into that sunset.
And I'm a little nervous if Wade Phillips is going to be able to stay there. And apologies, I said Keenan Allen earlier.
Yeah.
And I meant Kellen Mond. I guess I already have fantasy football stuck in my head right now. I don't know how I got those two mixed up.
Dynasty League's got to start thinking about things.
Yeah, a little too soon, but I was trying to think of him. But yeah, I just think a lot of the struggle has to do with the Kellen Mond and how he's playing out there, and they've got to. I guess they're going to have to make changes.
I didn't catch a ton of the week 2 game. I had a busy weekend. I was keeping up, catching highlights. But was it Kellen Mond or is it still the offensive line?
Well, they couldn't run the ball. Now, so
that's the offensive line.
Yeah, you could say that, but he built a good scheme for practically the same offensive line that he had last year. So I think there's just something going on. Maybe AJ Smith just doesn't have it anymore, and maybe he's kind of quitting on the team. That could be a possibility. And if that's the case, you have to make your change. I don't see a problem with that. But whatever's happening is just not working. He usually starts.
If you're the Roughnecks, do you immediately call AJ Smith and say, "Don't move out of your place yet. Come on over to us"?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I would definitely choose him over David Price. I think he's got a little left in the tank, and hopefully he gets a head coaching job.
And Smith has the background with the Roughnecks.
Yeah, and Houston generally loves him.
Your wide receivers coach. So back in the day of 2020. So
right, and Houston, the fan base has a love-hate thing, but they do like him, and I think they would enjoy him. He's definitely got a little bit more pizzazz. He's a flashy offensive coordinator too, as well. He gets braggadocious when he gets a play right.
He had that watch game going.
Yeah. He's known for the watch. He's known for pumping his fist, letting everyone know how smart he is, which you could debate if that's good for a coach or not. One thing is it's very entertaining. It's very entertaining, and I think it's a good difference between what they have right now and David Price. So hopefully, I don't know, the Roughnecks might. Ace, I kind of look at him for Roughnecks news, and I'm not seeing anything heading that direction. You think out of all the teams that need to make coaching decisions, personally, I would go with the Roughnecks. Need to make some changes because they're struggling, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would imagine if, and I say if, but I certainly hope this is true, the UFL is back for year 3. I'd imagine you're going to see a seismic shift in the coaching ranks. And hopefully a shift in trying to balance the power out in this league.
Of course, and AJ Smith and Greg Williams both had a huge following. A lot of people like to watch him in the UFL circles. So for these two to go, I think it's personally right now, I think it's a shot to the league.
Greg Williams is the bigger surprise.
Yeah. And he looked. I mean, I have my problems with Greg Williams too, and I don't know if
it's in season. Like if you're gonna go preseason.
You would think that they would decide to do that, and the fact is they're 2-0. But I think Greg Williams left, in my opinion. I think he might have been fired, but I don't know. I think he was on his way out the door. Maybe he's not a guy that easily that's easy to get along with. Though we can all agree with that. For sure. But so speaking of the week 2 results, we actually have that posted right over here.
Boom, 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 boom. Is that the
No, that's the
UFL
power
media?
rankings.
That's the UFL media power rankings. Yeah, there's the results.
Yeah, I got this. I actually got this off of ESPN, and we're gonna break down the games. So the game of the week last week was against the Birmingham Stallions and the Michigan Panthers. And Rob, we watched it. You got
We
anything new,
watched it.
exciting about this matchup?
No, just that the game wasn't nearly as close as the score indicates. And it did lead us down a rabbit hole of we got to figure out what's going on with this magic 3-point play. Did you do any more
Yeah, that
research?
was a little weird.
Yeah.
We never got an answer on
It
that,
did
did
not
we?
snap it from the 10. And I've got no problem with the 3-point play. But it should always be from the 10 no matter how much you're down.
Yeah, and it looked like it was from the 2, and they somehow gave him 3 points. Maybe they had the wrong score posted before. I don't know. You guys have to remember when we do this, we don't want our audio on there, and so as a result, when we're watching the games, we don't get all the insights from the analyst or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we were genuinely confused. It was a weird 3-point play that.
One thing I might try for the next game that we live stream, I might try to have the game hooked up to my phone in one ear, so that way that can maybe help us out with that. But yeah, 'cause we don't want YouTube to yell at us for accidentally streaming the UFL broadcast. So when we live stream, we got to make sure that our TV is not blasting into our mics.
We don't want them to demonetize our non-money that we're getting.
Yes, and if
We
you
don't
want to
wanna
give
risk
us money, please do. We're here. We'll sponsor you. We're
Of
good at
course, yeah.
sponsoring.
We do a lot of flash sponsors during the game of the week too. Whatever we're
Paulo
drinking.
Tequila, fantastic. This is perfect in your ranch waters, which is what I'm doing right now. Lalo,
Yeah.
get out.
So pay the man. Birmingham Stallions doing what they do. Magoo's out, and everyone's freaking out about that. He did go on IR. I have no clue what the actual injury is. I didn't get the
They
details
never
on it.
reported what it was.
Yeah, they didn't give us a real breakdown of exactly what it was, but it looked like he just landed on his right arm, the throwing arm, and something happened. I don't know if he shifted his shoulder or something strange happened there.
It's going to be shoulder or collarbone, or it didn't look bad. I will stand by that it didn't look bad. It was bad. He's done.
Yeah, and I called it. I don't know what it was, but just his reaction and the way he was acting, I was like, that looks bad. That looks really bad.
And you were correct, and I was incorrect.
Just weird. Maybe it's the collarbone, Rob, and I know collarbones. I know what that's like to break a collarbone. So maybe that happened. But yeah, so Magoo's out. I don't think really makes a difference with this team. I
think they have a better quarterback running this show now.
You really think so?
For upside. Consistency, Magoo is there, but upside, if Corral can roll, I think it's going to be better for them in the long run.
Yeah, and Corral was part of the championship team last year, so yes, Adrian Martinez took it over towards the end, but Corral was good too, and he ran the offense just fine. And then if Corral goes down,
you got Cookus.
So I quarterbacks like least of these teams worried. I'm sorry for Magoo, though. I feel bad for him. I hope he gets well and can get back into the league. But really, for the team, I'm just not seeing too much of a loss. A lot of people like Magoo, but I'm sitting there looking at their backups, and I'm going,
time to write a book.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and get Spring King 2 out with Magoo and try to sell that. On the Michigan Panthers part, we keep continuing the big debate. It's Etling versus Bryce Perkins, and I think I'm winning you over. It's Bryce Perkins.
Preseason, based on their history, based on their trajectory, based on the fact that Etling had a cup of coffee, one training camp in New England, based on the fact that Etling was an LSU quarterback, I'm like, he's your guy. It was very clear that the Panthers pulled the rug out from under themselves when they inserted Etling in for those few drives. Etling came in. He was a deer in the headlights. He was panicky. Even when he had open receivers, he was pushing that ball over them.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the guy.
Yeah, and here's my problem. I'm an Anthony. I'm sorry. I'm a Bryce Perkins guy. Okay, so I want him to take the
I'm on the
job.
train. Bryce Perkins. Bryce
Yes.
Perkins can be an MVP candidate if you leave him in the rest of the season.
Yeah, he's got a lot of spark. He's very exciting. But my issue is, like, whoever it is, I think Edling's, he has his issues, but I think he's fine. He proven himself last year. Just pick one. Just pick one. I mean, at this point,
if they don't after this week, they're not going to the playoffs.
Possibly. Now, I don't think it's a good conference, but we'll get into the showboats later. They might actually be not that bad. Not that bad. I've got a real breakdown on them. But
yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I think the reason why they lost this game was because of the 2-quarterback system. They weren't able to let Bryce Perkins get heated up towards the end of it. He had to take it over after Edling got benched again and work with what he got. And I just thought it was pretty unfair to him. Outside of that, though, Michigan Panthers, I'm not too excited about their offense, and I'm really curious about how it's going to be now that they lost Marcus Sims, who they didn't throw to him, if at all, during that game. So we'll see. We'll see. The Panthers, again, good defense. It's almost like a better version of the Houston Roughnecks, in my opinion. They have a good defense, but their offense is, I don't know.
That's not a good sign for the long-term season aspirations.
For sure, but one guy who can maybe give you a chance is Bryce Perkins. So I think you got to just stick with Bryce Perkins, and you might have a good team. I think you'll have a pretty good team.
If they pull them back and forth again this week, cancel their season. Get off the bandwagon.
Get off the bandwagon. Man, it's a big bandwagon, at least on Twitter. There's a lot of Stallion fans out there. So I'm sorry, Panther fans out there. So yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy. Then we got the DC Defenders against the Showboats. Did you catch much of this game? I got some thoughts.
I did, and I thought the Defenders, they won. Good job. I didn't think they'd have an issue covering. The Showboats showed some pride. They showed that they didn't want to just be run over all season. This was the battle of last-minute coaches. The right team won. The better coach won.
Mm-hmm.
But if the Defenders want to make the playoffs, they got to step it up.
Yeah, and I think I've got their exact problem why they struggled on this game. But the Showboats, here's what I'm going to give a little credit to. Now, they didn't score much. They didn't run the ball that well. But they stuck with EJ Perry, and I think that's a good choice. EJ Perry is a much better quarterback. He's risky. He might throw an interception or two, but for the most part, he's the better quarterback. He's definitely more exciting. So if you just want, people in the seats, you got to go with EJ Perry. The other impressive part was this DC Defenders manhandled the Stallions so well in the with their defensive line versus the offensive line. This time, not so much. They didn't even register one sack in this game. And it shocked me that they couldn't even get a sack on him. But the real problem that I have with this game, or the reason why I think the DC Defenders are struggling so much, it's going back to Tiamu, man. And who I've always said, look, if he can have the run and have enough play action, he's going to be a good quarterback to work that system. But in this case, he did have the run. He had 113 yards rushing by Jackson and Smith, but he couldn't do too much at all in this game. I mean, he got one touchdown and he threw for less than 50% in the game and less than 200 yards. I think there's something wrong with Tiamu. I'm starting to be out on him. I'm starting to wonder if he's actually that great of a quarterback, because he had the other part of it where they had the running game, and normally I'm thinking this is a good DC Defender offensive game. But in this case, it didn't really work out. Although they ended up winning the game, they still beat the Showboats. I still think they had more talent than them, so that's how they passed through. on this game, but it was definitely a lot closer than a lot of people thought.
Yeah. And honestly, losing Greg Williams, I think that might the Defenders, they were my exciting team. They were my league pass team, and Greg Williams has pulled the rug out from under us there. And I mean, week 3 is going to be that's going to tell us everything about them. But I think maybe, and St. Louis fans are glaring at me right now. But yeah, it should have always been the Battlehawks. The Battlehawks are the league pass team.
They're really good. They're really good. But the one good thing about the Defenders is they have a lot of talent. And one problem with Greg Williams, he blitzes a lot too, which I think wastes your talent because you can have a smart quarterback like a Luis Perez just pick that apart. Now we'll see what's going on. I'm actually a little interested.
They did keep it in the family. It is Blake Williams that has taken over. So
maybe he just keeps
that far.
And he keeps the rush going and keeps on blitzing.
So, all right, I'll take it back. I'm not out on the Defenders yet. Let's see what Blake can do. But the Battlehawks are currently holding the league pass title belt until further notice.
And
I still believe in you.
Yeah, and the DC Defenders still have a really good offensive coordinator, Fred Kais, and I think Tiamu did have a bad game. I don't think he's that bad. I'm going to keep saying that. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. But I think he's going to have a good bounce back next week. And I wouldn't be out on the DC Defenders yet. I think it was just a shaky game, and they got a little excited. They beat the Stallions. They go into this week, and they thought they could beat the Showboats. And they did. And we're acting like they lost. But it was much closer than we thought.
They still won. But speaking of shaky games, sir.
Mm-hmm.
They only won by 2?
Yeah.
Did the Renegades think it was over before it started?
I'm sorry, is this a rivalry? Yeah, Houston-Arlington.
But 2 points? They should have covered at least.
Well, if you listen to me, Rob, you would have known that they would stay away and not cover.
Yeah, I thought you were crazy saying the Roughnecks were going to cover, but you went 3-1. I went 1-3. You're now up by a game in our season series.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I knew it was a rivalry. So that alone just brings out the worst in everyone. I also was a little worried. Like, I'm still wondering about the Brahmas defense, by the way. So I'm still trying to figure out what the Renegades did there. Did they have a good offensive line? Were they able to run it down a good defense's throat?
Well, and St. Louis is very good. But
yeah.
I think the Brahmas are really bad.
they definitely didn't look good.
Through 2 weeks, but we're 20% of the season done. That's a lot of percent.
Yeah, they're running out of percent to perform over there.
Brahmas look bad. Still die hard. Still supporting them all the way since birth.
Yeah, and they
might a month ago.
And they might play well, going forward. They will have maybe a better offense, and we think, Mond should start picking it up. I mean, he had a decent NFL career. He could play in the NFL, so I don't know what's going on over there.
I think it's that line.
It didn't look good against the Renegades, but the Renegades' defensive line still looked good against the Roughnecks. Now, granted, we know the Roughnecks. I don't know about their offense, so I don't know if we can calibrate that. But so maybe the Brahmas could get it done later on down the road.
I mean, we're going to talk, or we're about to pivot to power rankings, right?
Correct. But the last thing I guess we're going to mention is the Battlehawks still look good. They got Manny Wilkins. fans shelled out for the most part 20% reduction in attendance from last year, but
that's still a lot better than the other 7.
they got 30,000 out. So good job, Battlehawk fans. Please keep it up. Please carry this league because you're the one team when you're on TV and you're home. You make us look legitimate. So thank you, St. Louis. Other cities, please pick it up. DC Defenders, I'm going to give you a little credit too. You guys shell out for the most part. And I think the more you win, the more you're going to do it. But, outside. The what?
I still want proof on that beer snake.
I think there's plenty of evidence over there. If you see how Ruckus
those
is.
cups look
They look way. I'm telling you, I think they drink it. Although with this few amount of people that were in the stands last game, they still were able to produce a snake. I don't know. It was a little skeptical. Maybe your conspiracy hat. You might be onto something there.
Do they have some sort of special where if you're drinking a beer for the beer snake, it's like $2? Because then it makes sense. But
I mean, I would do it. I would do it for sure. Yeah, for $2.
I would too.
Yeah. So the power rankings, I've got it located somewhere soon.
And we're going to show this is the UFL medias, and then we're going to say what we agree with or disagree with.
Correct. Yeah. And
let me get rid first,
Nick? Yeah. Let me get. Excuse me. Let me get rid of the banner here.
I mean, we're just covering the Roughnecks.
So yeah, we got the UFL media. They posted who they think is the best according to the power rankings, and we got the St. Louis Battlehawks number 1, DC Defenders number 2, Arlington Renegades number 3, Birmingham Stallions. Then it's Michigan Panthers, Memphis Showboats, San Antonio Brahmas going below the Showboats, and the Houston Roughnecks. Rob, what do you think of those power rankings?
All right. Well, okay. So I agree with the number 1 slot. That's easy. It's the St. Louis Battlehawks. But at number 2, and I know this is going to be controversial, give me those Stallions at 2. Renegades are in the right slot at 3. Defenders are in the prove it spot at 4. Then we go Panthers and Showboats at 5 and 6. I'm cool with that. But based on common opponent and total results, I'm putting the Roughnecks at 7 and the Brahmas at 8.
Wow. So you're putting them last?
The Brahmas?
Over the Roughnecks?
Yes. They both played the Renegades.
Okay. That's a good point. They both played the Renegades at the Renegades, and it did not look good for the Brahmas there. So for the fact that, the Houston Roughnecks put up a fight, I think it's more rivalry, by the way, Rob. I'm trying to tell you that. It's a different matchup.
And it totally could be, but it's Texas. It's Texas. The Brahmas should have brought it too. But yeah, my big changes are I have the Defenders at 4 until they can prove it. I want them to prove it. And the Brahmas really got to prove it, so they're at 8.
Yeah, and
I can see the Showboats being an 8 at the end of next week.
Well, the last point that I want to make about the Roughnecks and Renegades is the Roughnecks got their butts handed to them with the St. Louis Battlehawks. And I am a big believer, and you'll see it in the NFL all the time. When you get your butt handed to you, you are going to step it up. And even in the previous podcast, I mentioned that, CJ Johnson, I'm not the biggest fan, but the players do like him. And so if you like your coach, you're going to play for him. And I think they just put everything out on the line against the Renegades.
My counterpoint to your argument, the Brahmas got their butts handed to them. And
Twice.
then got their butts handed to them. Brahmas are in last.
I know one thing about Wade Phillips teams. I
like Wade Phillips a lot.
I like him too a lot too. But one thing's for sure. I've seen a Cowboys team quit on him before, so let's hope that's not the case. Let's hope, but I'd be a little nervous about that.
Just with the Brahmas being Dwayne's namesake, does Dwayne step in? Does he take over
with the Brahmas as the head coach?
Yeah,
possibly. I don't think they're going to get rid of Wade Phillips that easy. It's still a Texas team.
Wade Phillips is there to the end of the season. I'm joking. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
But all right, Nick. So my big things are DC at 4, Brahmas at 8. About everything else is pretty similar. What are your feelings?
I cannot deny the St. Louis Battlehawks are the number 1 seed. I've got my problems with the DC Defenders. I would put them actually at number 4, honestly.
Yeah, we agree there.
Yeah. And I would put the Arlington Renegades at number 3. I'm going to leave them where they're at, and the Birmingham Stallions is number 2.
All right, so our top 4 were in the same, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with it. Honestly, I think the Renegades.
I know we're going against the head-to-head of DC versus Birmingham, but that seemed one-off.
Yeah. But we have it. Yeah, we're going against it, and I'm just going to go ahead and make a guess right now. DC Defenders have a little too much turmoil there, so I don't know how well they'll continue to play. But if they actually prove it next week, you never know. They can move back up on the power rankings. I have no problem with the Michigan Panthers at 5. I think they're close. They're fine. If they stick with Bryce Perkins, then they'll actually have a better chance going into it. But Memphis Showboats at number 6, I disagree with that. Okay, you had one good game. You got to show me a lot more. So I'd move them at number 7. Yes, maybe I've got a lot of last year in me. Maybe I see something in it. I see the talent, and I'm just expecting better. But I'd move the Brahmas at number 6 above the Showboats. And then Roughnecks last. So that's the St. Louis Battlehawks, Birmingham Stallions, Arlington Renegades, DC Defenders, Michigan Panthers, San Antonio Brahmas, Memphis Showboats, and the Houston Roughnecks.
But I think one thing we can probably both agree with is there is a Lake Michigan-sized gulf between Team 5 and Team 6.
Yes, and I agree with that. I think the Stallions, Renegades, Defenders, and Battlehawks separate them, and they're the actual playoff team right now for sure, and they should be able to make it. Well, no, I mean, correction there though. I don't know. I put the Panthers there. Don't sleep on the Panthers, man. I did it last year. It doesn't end well for you.
Oh, and the Panthers, but I think we have 5 teams playing for 4 spots, and we have 3 teams that are collecting paychecks.
Yeah, they've got a lot to figure out right there. But let's move on. We got week 3 up ahead.
Make some picks.
And we got